Hello and welcome to the Play It Forward podcast presented by PeacePlayers, the podcast where we lift up voices and stories of people working in their communities and networks to promote peace and equity. I am your host, Chinny Nwagbo, and I am so thrilled to be here because our guest is phenomenal. You'll see when we get to the introduction part exactly what I mean. And apart from that, just a great human being. So I'm thrilled and very honored to have him on today's episode, where we'll be speaking about the power of sports and youth development, specifically how sports can develop youth into sound and phenomenal leaders. But before we do that, I've got to get you over to my most amazing, I said amazing, co-host, Emmett Shepard.
Woo! Applause, please, guys, stop clapping. It's just me. Hello and welcome again. My name is Emmett Shepard. Like Chinny introduced, I am her lovely and lanky co-host. And Chinny, I'm juiced up. I'm ready for today's guest. I'm like vibrating with the excitement right now. So why don't you give the people and our listeners what they want and introduce him for us?
Yes. And so I want to say this, like, wow, like, where do I begin? Our guest has been named the 100 most influential people in men's college basketball in 2020, was a 2016 Iowa High School Hall of Fame inductee and Mississippi Valley Conference Coach of the Year and Conference Champion. He was awarded U.S. Olympic Committee Volunteer Coach of the Year, all while representing the USA Basketball Development National Team as the coach of the 16 and under and 17 and under teams. He holds 10 USA Basketball Development Coaches of the Year awards, along with, and this is my favorite part here, 10 gold medals as the coach of the USA basketball team. 10 folks, you heard that. It might even be more than that, but what we saw, what we could like research, it was 10. He was also named the national team's national coach of the year. I mean, the list goes on. And I think the thing that is most dear to me is that he was named 10-time Iowa Coach of the Year. I'm from Iowa. Don is also from Iowa. I'm giving you away the guest for today. So, and all of that success and more, and he still found time to win the National Association of Basketball Coach Advocacy Award. Among some of the players that he's coached has been Bradley Beal, just to name a few. Andre
that guy. I don't know who that guy is.
Just a few amazing superstars, and then, like I said, the list goes on and on and on. And if I keep reading off how great he is, we'll be here forever. So I am more than thrilled. As you can see, his accomplishments are phenomenal. And if you're not thrilled and you don't have goosebumps, I don't know what to tell you. But please help me welcome the Director of Coach Development of the USA Basketball Division and an amazing coach, Don Showalter. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Well, that was very humbled by what you just do, and it's just to me, my path has been very much helped by other people. I mean, none of us go on our path by ourselves,
right?
We depend on other people to help us go on our path, and there's a lot of people to thank for my path and some of the accolades, but I really appreciate being on. Chinny, I think the first time we met was at in LA.
Yes, NBA All-Star.
Basketball Without Borders, and
yes,
we were co-coaching, as I remember right.
Yes, but really, he was the head coach, and he was like, "You can do whatever you like," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness!"
Really?
Yes, he was so
Really?
nice. It was
That's
so
so cool.
awesome. Yeah, and I learned so much from him in just that little bit of time. He reminded me of, I always say this, and I'll say it over and over again, the best coach I've ever had in my life was my high school coach, Mr. Walter Clark, Coach Clark. And when I tell you, he taught me the fundamentals of the game that were just huge. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw Don on the floor and he was just teaching the same fundamentals that I grew up with that helped me with my career, mm-hmm. It was just like, you don't want to be emotional, but you're just like, oh my God, Yeah, and he just, and then just to see him and the way he coaches and how calm he is and how precise he is about, getting the fundamentals right, because the fundamentals are the foundation to everything.
Right. He gets it. He gets it.
Yeah, yeah. So it
Yeah.
was so amazing to be in your presence. I really appreciated that moment, and even now,
fun to work with you. And then I think you had the courage to work my camp.
yes, it was
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
And
like 500 plus all girl camp.
Wow.
Yes,
Oh
it
my
was.
God.
It was very. If you don't have blood in your veins, just don't come. Don't come, because it was. They were hungry. They were happy, and I mean, not to mention we won the championship. But we'll
Subtle
talk about
flex.
that some other
Subtle
time.
flex.
Yeah. I was going to mention that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's something special we like to do, and Emmett's kind of like clearing his throat to get you ready and prepared to.
Yeah, Don, there's this word on the street. I don't know if you've heard it, but I'm sort of the icebreaker king, and it's something that we do just to shake things up a little bit before we dive into what we want to talk about today. And it's a really simple question. Don't worry about it, and we'll judge you really heavily based on your answer. So,
Okay.
So the
I'm
question
ready.
is, the icebreaker question is, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
First time, yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I'm really, and my wife will tell you that I use the term "get out of your comfort zone" a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and in working with players and kids. So kind of that piece of it is, all right, what have I done lately to get out of my comfort zone?
Right.
And so that question is kind of relates to that a little bit. Zip lining. I go back to zip lining. Was one of the first. I didn't do that too long ago. That was once you go. I find out once you do these things once, they're not near as scary or again. But just to get them that first time. Went up in a hot air balloon not too long ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of firsts there.
I was a little hesitant on that one, but again, you just after you do it one time, it's kind of it's not near as spooky and scary as is at first time with anything is always
right. Expanding that comfort zone, right?
Yeah. So those
No,
are
Don, I live by and so does Chinny. We live by the motto of not only pushing that comfort zone, but actually seeking the discomfort. And your life doesn't actually truly begin, and you don't really grow as a person until you're seeking that discomfort and you get comfortable with the discomfort kind of thing.
Yeah. We always tell our players same thing. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't really.
Emmett's smiling because he says that all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so with that, the ice being broken, I guess the most important question to start off today's show is, Don, please tell us about your prolific journey as one of the most decorated youth coaches. And also I'd be interested to know why you decided to stick to youth. So just tell us about yourself. Tell us about the journey.
Well, I tell young coaches all the time that, it's really hard to plot out your journey as a young coach. You think you want to get to this place and this place and this place, but rarely does it happen the way you think it should. And I think that was definitely my case. And the second thing I always tell young coaches and young people just in general is the fact that, if you want to pursue other things in life, you need to really do a great job of where you're at. I mean, that's number one. Don't be thinking there's always someplace better.
Right.
Or, I have I call it destination addiction. I think a lot of young people have, whether they're in basketball or coaching or just another a job. I think there's too many people that have what I call destination addiction, or they're always, they always think something's better. That goes for places, jobs, relationships, whatever. And so I guess to start off my journey, I would clarify that at a young age, I really didn't have, I had some goals, but I wasn't sure really where those goals were going to take me.
Right.
Right out of college, I got a head job at a small high school in Iowa, and loved every minute of it. First year we were horrible, and they were terrible. 2 years before I got there, I don't think they'd won a game.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so but it was a good place for me to start. I mean,
Yeah.
right out of college, there's only one way to go, and that was up. And after a couple of years, we kind of got the program going a little bit. And then I went to another school in Iowa, in Northeast Iowa, and it was just the opposite. They had a great basketball program. So I went,
Right.
trying to build a culture in a school that had no culture, winning culture,
Right.
to a school that had a lot of winning culture. So it was really kind of a night and day difference. But I was so really probably young and stupid. I didn't really realize that there was a big difference there.
Right.
And I was there 8 years and had nice success. And
Yeah.
I always said I was never going to go back to my alma mater. That was something I wasn't going to do.
Right.
But after 10 years, my alma mater called me and wanted to know if I was interested in coming back to the school I graduated from, and had a lot of success as a player, and loved my relationship with my high school coach and all that kind of stuff. And I think the kicker was that they had a kindergarten job for my wife. So I'm always thinking that I think they really wanted her to come back. I was going on her shirt tails.
Right.
So we made the move, and I said, we always said, well, for 4 or 5 years, this is really a good spot with our kids growing, or the kids were younger, grandparents around, and just, the village it takes to raise a child was there for us. And so the 5 years turned into 28, and I was there 28 years, cool. Athletic director and head basketball coach, and had a lot of success there. But we also had some years that weren't nearly as successful as maybe I thought they would be. So you kind of have ups and downs in high school, and that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And then I actually retired from being AD and still coached for a little bit. And then Iowa City High called and knew that that I had retired from being athletic director, and they called and wanted to know if I wanted to come over and try to resurrect their boys program. It's one of the largest schools in the state, about 2,200 kids in Iowa City, which is a great city, college town. University of Iowa is located there.
Yeah.
And where I was at before, we were only 15 miles from Iowa City, so it wasn't that big a move. We eventually bought a house in Iowa City, but the thing I liked about it is the huge diversity that was occurred at City High. I mean, I went from basically no diversity from where I was at Mid Prairie, my old high school, to very diverse student population. At City High, and that was, to me, that was tremendous. And having worked with, a huge diversity population with USA Basketball, I relished that. And so, so I was there until USA Basketball called and I wanted to know if I wanted to work full time with USA Basketball, and 5 years ago. So that's kind of my path in a nutshell. And I go back and you look at your kind of your path in life, and you connect the dots behind you. Yeah, this got me here. This got me here.
Right.
As opposed to try and say, I'm going to connect these dots ahead of me.
Which
never works. And I admit I wanted to be a college coach at some point. That's kind of was my goal early. But in the late 70s, 80s, I had a lot of good friends that went the college route, and then they were GAs and director of basketball operations, and didn't really coach on the floor. And I wanted to be a coach. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be an administrator. I gave that up when I was an athletic director. And then, the head coach gets fired and they're looking for another job. And I just didn't like that whole scenario with, with that aspect of Division One.
Right. The inconsistency.
Yeah. And, I love my family, my kids, and I didn't want to put them through all that. And that's kind of why I stayed at one place for 28 years as well. We just want to give our kids a good education, which they got. My daughter's a doctor and my son's a lawyer, and so
very nice.
Great education
Yeah.
at school. So I decided, you know what, and I love coaching high school kids. I mean, I just felt I could really make a difference. I over the years that I've coached, I felt just I got a lot better at coaching.
Yeah.
High school kids. First you never quite know, but as you're in it, I just felt that was for me. It was really something that I was led to, and this is where you're best at, and this is where you need to be put your services at. So I stayed with the high school level.
Very nice. Very, very cool that you're just a family man, and it's just it's pleasant. It's sweet. And also I like high school because these are the most impressionable years of young people, and your coaches can change your life. I know my coach changed my life. And so you being dedicated to that age, I think is it's just phenomenal. And it's just a great place to help, because people think of sports and we always think of win. But what we're forgetting is that it's more than that. You're like developing these people into humans. And so very, very cool of you. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. You made a great point by saying that, I think you have to evaluate really as a coach or in any form of job that you have. I think you really have to evaluate what are your priorities.
Yeah.
And then your priorities kind of come through with how your path goes. And I saw where Division I college coaching was going to eat up all the time I had, basically. And I'm not sure. I didn't really want to give up my time with my family and trips and working basketball camps and just all that kind of good stuff. And so I think we have to decide really what our priorities, and then
totally
and then find the balance.
That's
family always comes first.
Yeah.
Well, Don, I'm curious because at PeacePlayers, I don't know if you know this, but one thing we tend to like to do is use basketball as a thread to promote peace and a more equitable society. And we're using basketball as a tool to bridge divides between the youth that we're working with. And one of the main parts of our work with that youth is developing an LDP program, which is a leadership development program, where we basically teach them leadership skills to help mitigate conflict with each other. And so I'm curious, because I think a lot of youth coaches will say leadership is a big trait to have, but I'm curious, what other traits and characteristics do you think are the most important for youth to develop early on?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question. You're talking about a leadership development program. I think, when you talk about leadership, I think there's several things that go into leadership. So I think you have leadership might be your top heading. All right. Now, what goes into developing leadership, and especially with young kids and young adults, how does that leadership develop? And I think several things stand out. We always tell our players, one of the most important things is to be a great teammate.
Right.
And, you're being a great teammate. That really shows a lot of leadership. We just got done, cutting our U16 team from 24 to 16 to 12 just before I got on here. So, you're letting them know that, developing leadership is about being a great teammate. So I think that's really, to me, that's one of the forefronts. But also, we tell, especially our players, that there's a lot of things that really tell who you are that take no talent. I mean, you don't have to be a 5-star basketball player to do these things. One is great body language. Do you show great body language to your people around you, your coaches? And some do, some don't, and that tells a lot about we are just by nature quick to judge.
Yes.
I think, and we judge people based on their body language.
Yeah.
And I tell high school players all the time, when I go watch a game and I watch and I look at you, maybe I look at you as a possible USA basketball player. What do I see?
Right.
And is that fair? No, it's probably not fair. But I get an idea of who you are based on your body language. You look your coach in the eye during a timeout. Do you slump on your chair, and don't get up and applaud your teammates? Those are all really, I think leadership style, and the people that have the players that have take that into consideration, are great teammates, but they're also great leaders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think just we always talk about being coachable, and that goes across the realm of sports and jobs and everything else.
Yeah.
When if my boss tells me at USA Basketball, if he has something he wants to tell me about, I better be coachable.
Right.
I better listen. I better,
right.
I better look him in the eye, and I better say, you know what, I can improve on this.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes I think our young people, that's what they get out of. I mean, that's one thing that really they get out of playing sports. Is how do they react to criticism, and are they coachable, and which takes no talent. I mean, you're the best or worst player in the world, and you can do those things. So I think leadership is kind of makes up a lot of that. And then I think, to me, the best leaders are the humble ones.
Yeah.
Very, they have humility, and they understand. They just get it.
Yes, they do.
Where they were and how they got where they understand that. And I may be a really good basketball player, but that doesn't make me better than the person who isn't very good at basketball.
Right.
Humble with it. So
leadership.
When you raise the phrase leadership development program, I think that includes such a wide area of things. And, and sports can fill that.
Sports absolutely can. And it sounds like you are saying a lot of great things. And when I was playing in high school and, eventually got my scholarship to go play at Syracuse, the biggest thing was body language. And that body language can be a window into just your character, your selflessness, right? The accountability. If you're, like you said, the first one, applauding your teammates on the floor, if all those things go into the inner workings of the team. And knowing that part where you said you're not better than someone just because you're the MVP, but knowing that a team is composed of the sum of its parts. The person who gets the least amount of time is just as important as the person who gets the most time. And if you can work together to ensure that you guys are reaching towards that North Star goal, you'll have a great team. You'll have a very great team. So, yeah.
And Chinny, don't you think, I mean, you've been in athletics all your life, basically.
Yeah.
But, those teammates that you've had that are, you can see are very selfless and you look at, you look up to them, don't you? As a person, and that makes them have great leadership qualities because
absolutely. And that leadership, one thing that we're starting to get it. These are transferable characteristics, traits, right? That leadership transcends off the court and into life and into your relationships and into how you treat people and into one of the things that we say at PeacePlayers, seeing people as people. And so it's not just like leadership on the floor, it's who you are as a person. It's the standard that you hold yourself to. And so it is so much more, like you said, it is somewhat of a loaded question, but a good solid question. I do want to say this really quickly, because you talked about cuts, right? 32, I think you said 16, and then you're trimming off.
Yeah.
I would say the fat only because you love steaks, but I don't know if that's a great, great analogy to make.
Well, like a lot of
But
fat on my steaks,
but you know, but you are, you know, you're cutting down your team, and I kind of want to know about that, because it has to be an emotional, you know, roller coaster for those young kids. And then I don't know how you are from the coach's aspect, but like, it has to be tough to, like you said before we even jumped on the call, that it's so hard to cut some kids, especially when you really like them. Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point, because I think, you know, in any job, you know, there's possibility of getting released or fired or whatever you want to call it, you know. And these kids, the thing about the kids that we deal with USA Basketball right now, none of them have ever been in a position where somebody has told them, you know what, you're not good enough.
Right.
They come from their team, you know, they come from a team where they, you know, were pretty much ball dominant. They could shoot when they wanted to. They, you know,
the best of the best.
Yeah. They didn't have to really worry about, you know, some criticism from the coach, or, you know, which is kind of unfortunate in a little ways. But now we get them as 16-year-olds, and this is the first time they've really been kind of, you know, under the guise of, oh man, I might not, you know, I might get cut.
Yeah.
So it's really, it can be traumatic, but I think it's a great lesson. And we obviously try and make it, when I call them in, there's a couple of us that relay the message to them, but you know, we try and soften a little bit, but also we try and say, you know what, this is, you know, kind of how it is. And now how you going to, you know, how you deal with it is really going to make you, what's going to make you a better player or a better person. You know, to me, a great example. I mean, we've had a lot of players that we've cut, but a great example is Justice Winslow, who's in the NBA now, has been there, got to Miami Heat and Memphis, and you know, he's making 150 million a year, whatever.
just a little money, you know, just a little something.
Yeah. But you know, we, as a U16 player, we cut him.
Wow.
And you know, he's from Houston, where I'm in Houston right now with our team, but he's from Houston, and you know, I give this story a lot to our teams and camps, because you know, he could have played the blame game and said, you know, the coaches didn't give me a chance. Fuss about the fact that, you know, he should have been on the team but wasn't. But you know, Justice was an amazing player at 16, but he just said, you know what, I guess I just got to get a little better. And you know, he didn't hesitate. He knew he had his pass set, and he went back and worked hard. Came back with us. We invited him back for a U17 team, which would be the following summer, which would be for the World Championship. 16 is for qualification, North and South America. And so he came back. We invited him back as a U17 player, and he actually ended up making our cut, final 12. And we went to Argentina for the World Cup, playing, you know, play teams from Europe and Asia and all over. And he actually ended up starting for us, and then he ended up being one of the top 5 players on the all tournament team.
Wow.
And to me, that's just a great story of resiliency. And you know, how just resilient are you when things don't go quite the way you think they should. And so I always applaud, and Justice to this day says, if I wouldn't have been cut as a U16 player, he said I may have never made it to the NBA.
Yeah, it lights that fire in the great ones, really.
Yeah,
in the great ones. You said it right.
Yeah. This is kind of impromptu, but because you say that, and you know, it's resiliency. Yes, it is. And what I'm wondering too is, here you have these young people, and some may be getting cut, some may not, but they're also on this huge playing stage, right? In the United States, if you're not winning gold, then there is this sense of failure, right? So you're having to really groom these young people, 16 and under, 17 and under, they're babies, with all that that rigorous, that pressure that comes with playing in the Olympics. And I think just by listening to what you said, I'm curious to know what USA Basketball is doing to support mental health and
Yeah.
during that development process, right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing right now. We know that mental health and awareness is a huge center stage, and so, like, what are you guys doing to just really support that mental health and awareness, that development during that development time?
Yeah, and Chinny, you raise a great question, because I think the mental aspect, the mental health is complicated with the COVID virus. It's complicated with just world situations as they are. So and I think sometimes we forget that young people, 16, 17, 15, whatever, do have a lot of really can have a lot of mental, I don't like to use the word problem, but have some definite
baggage, just a lot of things they have to get through, and they're alone, right?
Yeah.
So mental hardships,
no question. And we, we don't have these kids, we don't have these players for a great length of time, but we have during COVID, we did several things with them. We had a Zoom with about 30 of our young players, 16, 17, and the discussion, we had a mental health coach, so to speak. We called him a mental health coach, and the activity was really good to allow them to, and part of it was we as coaches, we weren't on it.
Right.
We because we want them to just
Have
be
that
free to express
Yeah.
themselves, and let the professional mental health coach, get to them. And so that was, we had tremendous feedback from that aspect of it. We did that several times. And during training camp, we always talk about, we always talk about mental health as being something that, you're anxious, but you know what, that's okay.
Right.
I think young players that are anxious think, I shouldn't be anxious, or, I shouldn't feel this way, or no, that's, you feel that way for a reason, and it's okay.
Right.
You're not the only one that feels this way. So I think we had some really good discussions with our team, from that aspect, that just to have them know that other players are thinking the same way they are. They have the same anxious moments, but it helps the fact that, what, I know I'm not the only one that has this problem. Or
Right.
We give the parents information, who they can call, and things like that too.
So there's a support system there.
So there's a support system. We try and do the best we can, and with only having the players a short amount of time.
Right. I have to tie it to the mental health thing and leadership thing. I'm curious, Don, sort of in your whole coaching journey, have there been sort of a pendulum swing in the way in which specifically male athletes approach things like leadership and mental health? Like when I was coming up in those, meat market style recruiting camps, it was very much like, it was like you had to look cool. That was the most important thing, was this idea of looking cool, and like playing was kind of a secondary thing. And there was a coach there, luckily, at the recruiting camp that I was at, that was like, the coaches that are recruiting you are looking at you in the layup lines and on the bench. They don't really care how you play. They know how you play, kind of thing.
Right.
And it seems like it's starting to shift, where young men are starting to be like, no, it's actually cool to play and be a good teammate and be a good leader. And it's also cool to talk about mental health. Like when I was growing up, it was very not cool. It was
taboo,
like
right?
Being taboo. You were considered weak, kind of, especially in the male dominated sports. So I'm curious, sort of you got this glimpse, you got to see 28 plus years of this. Has it shifted at all, or has it stayed relatively the same?
I want to say this too, Emmett, and it's not just male dominated. If you are playing in the upper echelon, the top teams, even on women's teams, it's the same thing. It could be, that's just not weakness. We don't have weakness. We got to be strong no matter what. That's why we're the best. And good question.
No,
of course. Great question. Emmett, just to answer that, I think 10, 15 years ago, there was a stigma that if you admitted you were, had some mental health issues, I think that probably gave you
the target on your chest.
Gave you really some thoughts about, I shouldn't be thinking this way. It's. But I think now, I think the last 5 years, 6 years, and I think, COVID has helped that. I think more kids are saying, you know what, I'm struggling. And 10 years ago, I would never hear a 16 or 17-year-old say, hey, I'm struggling. Now you would just never hear that.
Yeah.
And so now I think, you know what? And when they hear one person say it, they go, yeah, you know what? I think
I feel that way.
The same way.
Yeah.
So I think that stigma has kind of been leveled off a little bit. We do. So I think coaches have been more aware of this whole process, at least from our aspect, that when we go around the country and talk to coaches, I think they're much more aware of the mental health. I think they're much more open to helping their players out, as opposed to saying, oh, you can get through it. Emmett, that's how we, 10, 15 years ago, that's what coach would say. Hey, you can get through it. It's easy.
Right. That's okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, I think coaches have done a better job. And I actually, I'll throw parents in that group. I think from what we see, I think parents have done a better job of identifying when their son or daughter is kind of going through some mental health issues and really working to get them some help from that standpoint too.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah. The pandemic has definitely opened space for people to see people as people, right? To see the humanity in others and be like, you know what, I'm not okay. And that being said, Emmett, I mean, I don't know if you're ready for this at all. I mean, I want to lighten it up just a tad bit, but
I'm stretching the neck. I'm ready.
You're stretching? You're stretching?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, Don. So
Don, as many of the people on the block know, I am the icebreaker king, but what a lot of people don't know, but there's starting to be some messages in the grapevine about this, is that I'm also the King Lightning Round giver. We're working title. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Chinny, why don't you walk him through the rules?
Yes.
Okay. There's rules to this now?
There are rules.
There are just a few rules. Emmett's the lightning round is just a fun and just an exciting place for us to get to know you a little bit better. You'll have 3 to 4 seconds, really 3 seconds, to answer every one of these questions that Emmett spits out at you. No pressure at all. Emmett's going to say my favorite line, which is,
don't worry, we'll judge you heavily with each one of your answers.
I got a shot clock on me too, huh?
Yeah, you got a shot clock.
Oh, you know about the time. Okay, time pressure. Okay. So that being said, I got my timer ready. Also got my pen down just in case you say some things that we need to take some notes with.
Right.
So all yours, Emmett.
Don, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Well,
favorite time. Favorite time of the day.
Favorite time of the day is like 10 p.m. to midnight.
Ooh, okay. Ooh. Night owl. I like it.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite meal of the day.
Favorite meal of the day is dinner time in the evening.
Okay.
Okay. Of course. That makes sense.
Sweet or salty food?
Well, I'm kind of a sweet guy.
Yeah, me too. We're all there together.
Yes. Yeah.
Scuba diving or skydiving?
Ooh. I would say scuba.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Favorite sport?
We know.
Yeah, it has to be basketball. But
absolutely.
Sports. Yeah, I love, my daughter and my son played all the sports, and I enjoyed all of them.
Okay. All right. Cool. That
But
makes
for me,
sense.
obviously now basketball is my favorite.
Whoop, whoop.
Favorite book?
Favorite book. I'm reading. I'm kind of into World War II stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I'm reading a lot of. I love Bill O'Reilly's books.
Okay.
He talks about killing Hitler and
the good stuff.
For all our listeners, we mean peace, and equity. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm very much into World War II stuff and intrigued by
favorite place in the world to travel.
I'm interested to know this one.
Yeah, my favorite place is Italy.
I've
had chances to go all over the world. Anywhere from Australia to Moscow to Indonesia.
Nice.
Wow.
Italy is still, Italy's it. Rome.
Was Italy where you guys took that that course where you guys were cooking? I think you guys were like on vacation. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Bologna.
Ooh.
Last thing you laughed at?
Last thing I laughed at. I try and laugh a lot.
Good.
And it's mostly on myself.
Okay. Right.
Can't take yourself too seriously.
The last, no, you can't. I think it was just here about 10 minutes before I went on the show. I laughed till there was tears in my face with our coaching staff because I had kind of messed something up, and they don't let me forget it. So we were just laughing. Yeah, it was good.
Last movie you watched?
Ooh. Well, it's been a while. You mean like in a movie theater or on TV, or doesn't matter?
Any movie.
Doesn't matter.
You know what? I'm not a big movie watcher.
No.
It's kind of like playing golf for me. I think when I'm watching that movie for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, or playing golf for 3 or 4 hours, I always think there's something else I could be doing more.
That's fair.
That stings, but okay.
Emmett loves movie. Okay, sorry. Emmett is actually a director. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Save it or spend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue in our household. I'm a spend guy.
You're a spend guy.
Okay. Good.
Guy. Yep.
Right.
Dine out or dine in?
Well, I really dine out for me, but during COVID, it was kind of, I'd have to get my own steaks and do it. So I kind of transferred from dine out to dine in, but I'm back on the dine out.
Right.
Mode now.
Name of a person who inspires you.
Ooh.
Who inspires me, or who has inspired me?
Or who has inspired you, and either one.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to my college coach, basketball coach, was really a great inspiration to me. I worked John Wooden's camps at UCLA in California for 25 years.
Wow.
And he was a great inspiration to me from not on a coaching standpoint, but how he brought humility every day and he did. So those kind of people inspire me a lot.
Yeah, very nice.
Subtle flex.
And your wife, because she might be listening, so she also inspires you.
Obviously. Well, she inspires me just by being her. So
there you go.
Name one thing you want to leave the world with after you're gone.
Ooh, good question.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think leave the world with the fact that that I was a very loyal friend, and that I touched a lot of lives.
Yeah, very nice.
Just from being the chance of being a coach, and I always go back to the fact that I think the saying goes that a coach touches more lives in a year than most people do in a lifetime. And I always kind of keep that the forefront because I think that's very true.
Yeah. Oh my God, Don. You got me emotional. Oh my God. Okay. I'm fine.
It's okay.
Press that down. One takeaway you want the listener to remember from today.
one takeaway I think would be the fact that your path is can't be predetermined. I think you do a great job of where you're at the moment you're there, and then your path will be determined basically by that.
Yeah,
When you
absolutely.
try and like we talked about before, when you try and plot out your path, you overlook where you're at. And
Yeah,
so,
right.
the old saying goes, "Be where your feet are. Do the best
Yeah,
job you can where
yeah.
your feet are."
Enjoy the moment you're in. Yeah, absolutely.
You two have to be great podcast people,
Right.
or your podcast doesn't function,
Right,
Yeah,
right,
true.
right, right.
True.
That's very true. Yeah. So of course we at this point kind of want
Well,
to
first, before we have to celebrate, congrats. You got through it. You got through the
Yes.
lightning round.
Oh, yeah,
Congratulations.
yes. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Did I
It's done.
pass?
The clock is off. Yeah, you
Okay.
passed. You
Yeah.
passed.
All right. There we go.
Emmett, where would I be without you, Emmett?
No,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
you've passed.
We just
You're
wanted to give him
amazing.
that exhale so that he's not on the chopping block anymore.
The lightning round.
Yes,
I made
yes.
you the lightning round.
Yes, you have. And with that being said, I want to talk about just the positive and amazing effects that youth sports has on our youth, right? We know that when youth participate in sports, they build teamwork skills and social skills, healthy habits like self-discipline and sportsmanship, and just being able to be coachable. And these are key things that follow them into their adulthood. But one of the things that studies have shown is that performance-driven environments, where there's like win-at-all-cost environments, can also have that negative effect. And it can push kids and youth into a space where they don't grow. And then there's a lot of adversity that they face in and outside of the sport. And so for all of our youth development coaches out there, excuse me, who are listening, how do they balance a competitive, a healthy environment for young athletes without imposing this very unhealthy win at all cost environment?
Yeah, and you obviously raised some great questions that are kind of the forefront of what we go when I give clinics to youth coaches. It's kind of that, that's kind of the forefront of what we talk about. I always say that, and that there's a lot of things that guide coaches into being a coach.
Yeah.
The reasons they got into it. So I always say, in any profession, we got to ask, we have to answer the question, why? Why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it to win games? I mean, that's pretty shallow. If you have, that's your only reason you're in it. And so, we try and really get the message across to youth coaches that winning is not a goal. That is not a goal. Right. It's an objective.
Right.
But your goal is to develop these young players into, depending on what age, at age 6 and 7 and 8, your only goal is for them to have fun. That is the only goal.
Exactly. Exactly.
And Chinny, you both been involved in athletics. If you have fun at it, you're going to stay with it.
Yeah.
If you don't have fun at it, I'm not going to play. Why would I play basketball if it's no fun?
Right.
So when youth coaches, we really strive to say it does not matter if whatever you do in practice, whatever you do, the final outcome is not your immediate goal. Your final outcome is, hey, did your kids have fun? So we tell our parents, we always try and make this message. First thing your parents should ask them is, hey, I enjoyed watching you play, and I hope you had fun.
Yes.
That's the bottom line to it. So, I think that's one of the things that we really try and instill is that, your goal is not to win. Your goal is, that's objective. Your goal is to make, and then as a young player gets in whatever sport, I have grandkids now that are growing up, and whatever sport they're in, I think they have to really understand that they have to be in it for the right reason.
Right.
And if they love it, then they're going to stay with it.
Yeah.
And too many young kids now, are forced into picking sports and playing that sport even though they like other sports, they can't play other sports, which is ridiculous, you know?
Right.
And so I think too many players are put in that kind of mold where, you know, if you're going to be really good, you have to play basketball, you know, starting at age 7 and not play any other sports.
Yeah, it's totally wrong. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I have a laugh every time I go to a game where they're playing 7, 8-year-olds, you know,
Right.
and they're playing a zone defense and you know, they're not learning anything. And, you know,
Right.
one guy is dominating because he gets the rebound. He'll dribble down the court and shoot it, and the other 4 just kind of watching, you know.
Right.
Not getting
Right.
developed.
Right.
And so I always kind of shake my head and laugh at the same time.
Right.
But I actually think that you know, many of our coaches are really making a strong effort to do a good job with making them love the game, you know, as opposed to, you know, you have to play this game 24/7 type of thing. So I'm seeing a little change in that, I think.
Yeah. I think, and you mentioned this. It's about developing that young person, and I think what's helping expand the love for just any game is just the relationships you build. Those are the most important things, and I'm totally on board with you with regards to you have to play one sport. No, that's not true. Statistically, it says that your children should be exposed to at least 2 or 3 sports.
Absolutely.
As long as they can, and then you know, eventually, if they would like to, they'll pick which sport that they love the most. But they should definitely have that variety, because there's different networks that come with it. There's different friends. There's different. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's about building the young person first. It can't be a win at all costs type of environment. Thank you so much for sharing that. But I also have this thing that I want to bring up because you said this. I'm sorry. I'm like, I've got to ask you all these questions in this little bit of time, but I'm not sure if you're aware of this, because I want to shift here a bit and talk about all the great attributes that youth sports contribute to child development, and talk specifically about girls. Studies have shown that when girls play sports, they're more likely to develop the skills to become confident and strong leaders, CEOs, executive directors, lawyers, doctors, all these different type of lead roles. And they tend to work in industries that are solely like male dominated industry. And I must say that they succeed brilliantly because of their exposure to sports. And I think that while young people reap the numerous benefits from participating in sports, the problem is that research shows that girls are more likely to drop out of sports than boys. And if they do, they are more likely to lose all those benefits. And so I know that you are not a coach that unless you have, and you can explain that to us, but have ever coached girls. But I'd like to know from your coaching experience, and be interested to hear from your perspective, what we can do to improve girls' involvement in sports and how we can continue to encourage girls to play, and what we can do, what coaches can do to ensure that there is an equal playing field. A lot of times girls don't play because they're not encouraged to. So what are your thoughts?
But USA basketball, I mean, we are really, I don't know if concerned is a good word for this, but we are certainly looking at the fact that there are not more women in sports.
Right.
And I find out there's the coaching, the women coaching in sports is not very many. I mean,
Right.
you know, we have to search for good female coaches that we want to have in our programs.
Yeah.
So we've had one of our initiatives is called Women in Sport, and we have a big conference coming up in Las Vegas in next spring. So those are some initiatives that we think are, you know, we're trying to, and you're exactly right, because the girls that participate in sports, I think have a definite advantage when it comes to just confidence. And the funny thing I should say is, I mean, I run a girls, as you know, I run a session of girls camp, and girls are really a pleasure to coach. I mean, to me, they're
You're
really,
welcome.
it's just different from, and I don't care what people say, but it is different from boys. They,
Yeah.
you know, they listen, they want to, they work so hard to please you.
Right.
You know, if
Right.
you say, if you say, hey, can you get the ball from point A to point B, they're going to really try to.
Right. Right.
For the boys' attitude, yeah, I'll show you how we'll get there.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And I really enjoyed coaching girls softball.
10 years, you said?
I coached for 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And I always made the statement that, you can never really tell if you won or lose because the girls some of them would be crying after every game. Either won or you lost. So a lot of times it was hard to tell if we won or lost because based on their emotion. But the emotional
That's not funny, but it's funny. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
I know. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed coaching young ladies, and I think we need to have young ladies in sport.
Yeah.
And because I think I think the culture is changing a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
In the world towards women in sport, but we just see there's not a great level of females in coaching.
Right.
We'd like to see. I think you made a great point by saying girls drop out. Statistics tell us that girls drop out of sports quicker.
Yeah. Yes,
not
absolutely.
stay as long. And I think that's a real disheartening type of statistic.
Right. Right.
We've talked about that idea, Don, that if are those females in place in mentoring roles, then it's a trickle down effect, sort of, where more female athletes will be more interested and want to stay because they'll see more people like themselves at higher levels. Absolutely. Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
We try. I mean, my basketball camps, I try and hire really good female coaches because I think they need to see that, hey, this is a possibility for them.
Yeah. I agree. Right. And when we start to dismantle that cultural message that tells girls subtly that, but not so subtly, that sports are for boys. When we have those women in those places that are advocating, and when girls can see, oh my God, there's someone who looks like me doing what I'm doing. Okay, this is okay. I think it becomes I don't like using this word, but it normalizes girls playing sports. So very cool of you.
It's been great for us to support women in sport, and actually it goes beyond that. I mean, we have women that are in high level CEO positions giving information about and my daughter's a doctor, and she got the idea that she wanted to be a doctor from a female doctor in high school that came and visited with them. So I don't know if that really made her want to be a doctor, but it gave her an idea. You know what? I can do this.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody looks like me is showing me that I can do this. Yeah. It's inspirational. Yeah.
So Don, before we, unless Chinny, you have something else before we wrap up,
please go.
I kind of want to, for most of our youth coaches in PeacePlayers listening to this, I kind of want to ask you this one final question for addressing to them more so, which is, what is the recipe in your mind for a successful coach?
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some things that go into being a really good coach.
Yeah.
I think first of all, you get to be organized in what you do. I think it's very important that you're organized. I think players see if you're organized, they have a lot more trust in you. You know what you're doing.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He's organized.
Right.
And I think it goes over to parents. I think parents have the same thing. If they see you're organized as a coach, it gives them confidence that you're teaching their kids, their son or their daughter, in a proper way because they're organized in what they do. And that also organization goes into, how your thoughts on, how you're going to teach stuff,
Right.
You can't go in and just kind of off the cuff and do it. No, you have to be organized in what you do. So I think organized, got to be a good teacher.
Yeah.
And, you said, and kids learn different. I found this out coaching boys and girls, and I was not a very good auditory learner. In other words, if my coach told me, hey, let's do this, I didn't. I tried and just didn't get it. But boy, if I visualize, it was visual, I could do it.
Me too.
So same.
Yeah. So as a coach, I think you have to have that aspect. All right, I'm going to explain it, then I'm going to show it, and now I'm going to get repetitions in.
Right.
So everybody can understand what you want done.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be good, have to be a good teacher. I think humility plays a big role in being a good coach. You're humble about, hey, I'm happy to coach, and you're humble with the fact that you're coaching this team, and I think that plays a big role. And I think all these things build a lot of trust. And to me, the number one thing that coaches need to do with their teams is build trust.
Yes.
If your players trust you, I think you're going to have some success in not only the win-loss column, but you're going to have success in them enjoying the game and
patience too. Patience as well.
Patience.
Just being patient. It's a long road. You're like,
Dan's like, yep, patience.
Patience, empathy. You got to have empathy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love all of those characteristics, and I want to add to something you said in terms of how you learned. You say it, you show it, and one of the things I think that made my coach fantastic, he would say it, he would show it, he would diagram it, we would watch video. I mean, in high school, we were breaking down film, and on the floor when we played, he used to do this thing where if we made a mistake, he'd be like, "Okay, hold the ball," and he'd ask one of my teammates, "Why did you pass the ball there?" And she'd say, "Oh, I passed it here to go here." Okay. Then he'd say, "What other options do you see here?" And he would never give us the answer. We always had to look. And so what he was doing was he was improving our basketball IQ. Yep. He'd say, "Okay, yeah, you can pass the ball here. What happens if you pass the ball here? What does the defense do?" And you'd say, "Oh, well, if I could pass the ball here, it would force the defense to collapse." And so he'd say, "Right. And so if the defense collapses, who's open?" And because you just took the shot, which wasn't a good shot. So he would teach us about shot selection, but he wouldn't say, "That wasn't a good shot." He'll say, tell me what you saw and why you took that shot." Right. And you have to break it down. And then in breaking it down for yourself, you would see the better shot.
Yeah. That's a great point, because now that's part of being a great teacher.
Yeah.
And I, as a young coach, I didn't do a very good job of that. The longer I coached, I think I did a much better job of just asking questions, and I get to go a lot of practices, Division I, Division II, high school practices, right. And really the best coaches are, they'll ask their players the questions. Won't give them the answer, but they'll ask the questions.
Yeah,
right. And it kind of makes now you have to figure it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not going to tell you. You figure it out.
Right. Because when you're in the game, your coach can't tell you.
That's right.
When you're in the game, you are the coach on the floor. You got to be able to read the game to know especially if you're a point guard, to know what's the best option, what's the best defense we should be in. All these things, you're an extension of that coach. And the only way you can be an extension of the coach is if you can think and have that basketball IQ for yourself. So,
right. Right.
And then it's huge carryover in life,
in life.
To figure things out.
Figure things out. Yeah. So with that being said, I would like to say that there is one specific drop the mic moment, but there are so many. So we had this thing where we had the drop the mic moment of the thing that just sticks out the most throughout the conversation. And there's just been so many great things. Patience, being a great coach, creating a space for mental health awareness, understanding it's not just about winning, developing the youth. There's so many different nuggets that you left with us today and the listeners. And we just like to say on that note, thank you so much.
And good luck in Mexico. Seriously, we'll be rooting for you.
Yeah.
Yes. Woohoo.
It'll be fun.
Of course, I'm sure it's going to be another gold. Yes.
Knock on wood, knock on wood.
Yeah, not going. But is there anywhere where people, you want to drop any of your handles, or where people can reach you, or is there anything you want to leave with our listeners? Or
Yeah, I would say USA Basketball. We offer some resources, and one of those resources is getting your USA Basketball license.
yeah,
So we're right at kind of the end of the year right now, but starting in September, go online usab.com, and you can apply, get our USA Basketball license, which will give you a lot of materials for how to coach young kids. We have 4 levels, the introductory levels for the young kids, and all the way up through the performance level. So it gives you great ideas, some drills that you can use for that as well. So I encourage people to go online and look at that. Yeah, and then other resources, Women in the Game. We have that coming up. So really a lot of resources for coaches that we think are really good and should be taken advantage of. And of course, if you want to follow, I give a lot of mind candies. So if you follow my Twitter account,
yes,
you get a lot of mind candies that deal with sports, athletics, just in general, become a better person, better coach, whatever.
They're awesome
as well. So, and I throw in some steak pictures once in a while.
For those of you listening, his favorite food is
mind
steak.
candies and steak pictures.
Yes.
Right. And my Twitter handle is at dshow23.
Right.
So if you're interested, and most of it, 95% is basketball or athletic related. So I try and do that for the Twitter account. So I enjoy that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was awesome. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. If you like what you heard, we encourage you to like and subscribe. We've got many more brilliant conversations and stories to share in the coming weeks. And like I always say, please share with a friend, like, comment, anything you can just to support us. We'll appreciate it. Emmett, oh my goodness.
Oh,
what are your
my
thoughts?
God. DonTheBomb.com.
TheBomb.com.
Oh my God, I'm floored. We could have talked to him literally for 5.5 hours. It was it was incredible. He had so many stories.
Yes, it was.
I want him back, and I also kind of want to go to Mexico now for some reason.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna go there. We have tickets already, so I didn't. It's a surprise. Just telling you now, but
if you guys like what you heard, you can learn more about PeacePlayers by visiting our website and following us on social media, mostly at PeacePlayers International on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace, Tumblr. Just kidding. Those last two nobody uses.
Right.
Chinny's laughing, so I'm going to keep saying that joke. That's it. I mean, man, you know what I got to do right now.
I already know, but I'd like to hear you say it again.